Here's what's coming up tonight on Inside City Hall. It is day 2 on the job for Mayor Mamdani, who announced a new office that he says will transform how New Yorkers engage with city government. We'll explain. Then I'll be joined by Julia Curson, the new Deputy Mayor for Operations, to talk about how she seeks to implement Mayor Mamdani's agenda across city agencies. And we'll break down yesterday's inauguration ceremony and what we can expect from the new administration, when I'm joined by 3 top City Hall reporters in our weekly Reporters Roundtable. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Friday, January 2nd, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. Zohran Mamdani has credited his many volunteers for its instrumental role in his successful mayoral campaign. Today, on day 2 of his administration, the mayor created a new Office of Mass Engagement within City Hall to try and elevate the ideas and opinions of everyday New Yorkers into government. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins me now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Bernadette.
Good evening, Errol. So it's day 2 of the Mamdani administration. Already, he's paying homage to some of his top campaign staff who really put the pedal to the metal, knocking on doors and assisting with his successful mayoral campaign by saying he's going to have a place for them within City Hall.
So many people feel isolated from one another and distant from a political system that can feel closed or unresponsive. They made a deliberate choice.
Kicking off his second day on the job, Mayor Zohran Mamdani surrounded himself with former campaign volunteers in the middle of Grand Army Plaza, Brooklyn.
Too often, people are asked for input, but never see how it shapes outcomes. Today, that changes.
Naming a top campaign aide as commissioner of the newly created Mayor's Office of Mass Engagement, who he credits for helping marshal a so-called army of volunteers, at one point described at 100,000 strong, and responsible for knocking on over 3 million doors.
This is done with the intention of delivering for New Yorkers today, delivering for New Yorkers every single day.
Pointing to an example of when he transformed advice into successful policy, Mamdani credited his signature free MTA bus proposal to a conversation he had years ago as a Queens state assemblyman.
Who brought up the fact that in order to deliver not only in terms of economic relief, but also in terms of public safety, this would mean also making buses free. And those are meetings that then informed our approach.
Shying away from disclosing a price tag, Mamdani said current city staffers will be shuffled into new roles. There's an existing Mayor's Community Affairs Unit described as the, quote, fundamental connection between City Hall and New York City residents throughout the 5 boroughs, according to City Hall's website.
There are a number of employees within this office that are already working for the city within previously existing offices, and then the specifics of how it will expand beyond that is something that we will be sharing later.
Meanwhile, Mamdani said he and the city's First Lady are planning to move to Gracie Mansion on the Upper East Side before the month's end.
I'll be moving soon. My lease in my apartment ends at the end of this month.
And one question for the Mamdani administration is whether or not some of those 179 staffers who got the axe well before January 1st were some of those people already doing that community outreach under the previous administration. But clearly Mamdani is making a statement saying that he wants to bring his people in and have them be deployed throughout the city.
Well, you know, when they make it sound like mass engagement, community engagement is simply a good thing, clearly it's not engagement in order to criticize the administration. No one would do that.
Sure, right. Like a community board, for example, which, you know, represents the needs of various communities throughout the 5 boroughs and are often unruly and very critical of everything from garbage pickup to a city council bill to, you know, the larger policies of the mayor itself. So it'll be interesting to see how they transform a volunteer operation who are used to being able to have more wiggle room to now, and if any of them become paid staffers within City Hall.
And do we have any sense of what the dimensions or the, say, the cost of this office might be?
We don't. I asked Mamdani what the price tag is. He said we'll get back to you. But one can assume that this will all be figured out before the February city budget gets worked out, which will be a whole host of other issues, obviously, besides just hiring new staffers. They have to figure out how to fund existing programs. They have a massive deficit, in addition to those new policy proposals that Mamdani ran on, was assistive with his successful launch.
And let's, we shouldn't be too cynical about this, but any mayor needs to have eyes and ears on the street in all of the neighborhoods. And, in the old system, there were political clubs that would do that for you.
Right.
We're kind of past that era in a lot of ways.
And if you look back at the former administration, Mayor Eric Adams, the way he was really successful in 2021 was because he was able to get out to immigrant communities, specifically in the far reaches of Queens and Brooklyn, and stitch together this group that propelled him and made him win. Mamdani did a similar thing with the many immigrants and groups of people that had never voted in an election before, and that's one of his claims to fame and one thing that the campaign touted.
Okay, thanks very much, Bernadette. Meanwhile, in his first act as mayor, Zohran Mamdani announced that he was revoking a slew of executive orders issued by his predecessor, Mayor Eric Adams, over the last 15 months. Our Kelly Mena took a deep dive into what the new mayor actually eliminated, some of which sparked concern by some Jewish groups. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And as the now mayor Mamdani, he was looking to make a big statement on his first day. But in making that statement, he raised a lot of concerns and alarm bells about how he's going to run the city.
We speak about this day as a new era. And in order for us to fulfill the hope that that language engenders, we have to reckon with why so many New Yorkers have turned away from politics.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani started his tenure with a sweeping move to revoke executive orders issued by his predecessor. The announcement initially blanketed over a dozen executive orders, but the move had to be quickly clarified amid concerns it would harm city services and Jewish New Yorkers.
In our second executive order, we write about the structure of city government, and that structure also includes the continued incorporation of the Office to Combat Anti-Semitism.
In total, Mamdani actually revoked 9 executive orders, ranging from the ending of the city's adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, to banning the boycott, divestment, and sanctioning of Israel, to eliminating the Office of Rodent Mitigation. He reissued 7 orders that deal with a wide range of issues, including city contracts to universal after-school, while 3 were amended that mostly made tweaks to the city's work on combating anti-Semitism. Mamdani used September 26, 2024, the date Adams became the first sitting mayor, to be indicted as a starting point.
It's a silly basis on which to predicate such an important decision.
Randy Mastro, who served as first deputy mayor under Adams for the last 9 months of his mayoralty, criticized Mamdani for what he called a heavy-handed approach.
This is a broadside attack on the many executive orders that have been designed to protect against anti-Semitism in our city. These things make no sense, and they do not portend of the kind of decision-making one should expect of City Hall.
Jewish organizations have criticized Mamdani's move, calling it dangerous. The Council General of Israel, in a statement, said the decisions to revoke the IRA definition of anti-Semitism and to allow for boycotts against Israel are actions that pose an immediate threat to the safety of Jewish communities in New York City and could lead to an increase in violent anti-Semitic attacks throughout the city. Amid the concerns, Mamdani reaffirmed his commitment to Jewish New Yorkers.
Protecting Jewish New Yorkers is going to be a focus of my administration.
And it was about 20 executive orders under the previous administration that were impacted by this first one issued by Mayor Mamdani, 5 of which were issued in the last final weeks of Mayor Adams' mayoralty.
So I mean, in a lot of ways, the executive orders that were rescinded were themselves symbolic, right? I mean, we still have a very strong human rights law. We still have an office to prevent hate crimes. We still have, presumably, the sanitation department is going to do something about rats, even if there is no particular office to deal with rat mitigation, right?
That's right. There's still a lot of efficiencies in city government. I think for Mamdani, this was very symbolic, in particular when it deals with Israel relations and how he feels about that. We know that he had some criticisms going into his campaign, and then when he got elected, he made some promises. So I think that was part of what he was trying to do. And also, everybody has their own way of running their government the way they want to do it. So he has a right to do that, and I think that's what they were going after.
Right. Did Randy Masters say anything about some of what the departing administration did as far as that slew of vetoes on their final day and sticking people on the rent guidelines board and otherwise kind of mucking around in their successor? He seems so upset by all of this stuff, but it was part of, there's some context there, I guess is what we should say.
Right, and I should say, you know, 5 of the executive orders were actually issued after Mamdani was elected to be mayor, so after November 4th. Many of them dealing with anti-Semitism in Israel. So I did not get to ask the former first deputy mayor of those things, but we do know that there were some landmines that Mayor Adams left for Mamdani that he will have to deal with in the next coming weeks. I'm thinking about the budget, and when it comes to cops, talked about these budget gaps that are still there, especially not knowing what the federal government might do. And then obviously the rent guidelines board is a big one because that was the main campaign promise that he made going into office, Harold.
Okay, thanks very much, Kelly. Very soon, Mayor Mamdani's old seat in the state assembly will be filled. Governor Hochul announced a special election to fill that seat on Tuesday, February 3rd. There are other vacant seats that will be included as well. The openings are in the 47th and 61st Senate districts as well. They were held by former State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel in Manhattan and former State Senator Sean Ryan upstate near Buffalo, along with Mamdani's 36th Assembly District in Queens. Mamdani has already endorsed Diana Moreno, a Democratic socialist, in that race for his former seat. The mayor stepped down from his seat in order to assume his new role. Hoylman-Siegel left his role to become Manhattan Borough President, and Sean Ryan resigned to take on this new job as the mayor of Buffalo. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined in studio by Julia Curson. She is the new deputy mayor for operations. We will talk about her role and talk about how she plans to make Mayor Mamdani's campaign promises, including fast and free buses, a reality. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost, and that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure, why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. We've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. It's day 2 in office for Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and before his inauguration, he announced several key appointments to help lead and implement the central aspects of his agenda. One of them is my next guest, Julia Kirsten is the new Deputy Mayor for Operations. She previously served as an infrastructure advisor to Governor Kathy Hochul and a senior advisor to the Deputy Mayor for Operations in the de Blasio administration. Welcome to the program. Very good to see you, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
My understanding is that your job is going to be to oversee and coordinate some of the agencies that the public will actually notice. There's some people in government who can kind of hide, but we're going to see your work every day because you've got the Departments of Transportation, Parks, Sanitation, Buildings Department, and Emergency Management. Were those same agencies in your portfolio when you worked under Bill de Blasio?
Yes, largely. I think there's been a little bit of shifting, but generally that's the same set of agencies that I worked with before.
I assume that emergency management would always be grouped with like fire and police and, EMS and that sort of a thing.
Yes, well, I've got fire and I've got emergency management. Police is with the first deputy mayor. I think it does make sense to sort of put those things together.
So what does a day in the life of operations look like? To what extent are you sort of putting out literally the fire of the day, and to what extent are you sort of proactively, kind of building on a plan?
Yeah, well, I think, we've got a great set of agencies full of really, really dedicated public servants who are trying to deliver for New Yorkers. I think a lot of what our job is to make sure that in delivering those services, they are advancing the agenda of the mayor. And so a lot of what we are doing is sort of understanding real-time operational performance and making sure that services are delivered as efficiently as possible, and then where it makes sense, interjecting and adjusting in line with the vision that the mayor has laid out for us.
Does that include discussions about budgets?
For sure, absolutely. We're going to have to make sure that the budget is reflective of the mayor's priorities, and those priorities are exciting for us to try and deliver for New Yorkers.
And in this case, there are a lot of commissioners of, say, parks and some of the other agencies that have not been named yet, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, I think we want to be really thoughtful, make sure we have the best folks running these agencies. We're also certainly focused on continuity and consistency and make sure that we have leadership while we figure out where we want to make changes. So we've got all our bases covered at the moment.
And is this something you've always wanted to do? Because I looked at your resume and it's kind of like you've always sort of been in this kind of operational hub behind some of the biggest agencies at the state level and now at the city level.
Yeah, I really like governing, and I think the pace and adrenaline associated with running big programs, big operations is something that I've always really liked. This is certainly kind of an ultimate career goal of mine, and I'm really excited to be able to do it, and I've really been lucky to learn from some of the greats before me. So,
Okay, you now take your place alongside them. There's some good news from the Department of Transportation. I saw 2025 ended with the fewest traffic deaths ever recorded in the 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
A 19% decline just from last year. 205 traffic-related deaths last year. Each one is a tragedy, but it's way down from where it's ever been before.
That's right.
What accounts for the improvement, do you think?
I think there's a lot of stuff, but the Department of Transportation has been doing a lot of great work. Obviously, we can do more on street redesign. We can do more to make our intersections safer, but I think these numbers are reflective of the commitment of the public servants that have been trying to keep New York safe every day.
Is it generally accepted in your line of work that these improvements, whether it's, neck downs or, speed bumps and all of the different kind of techniques that have been implemented on the streets, that they work?
Yeah, you can see it in the data. When you make intersections safer for people to cross, you see reduced incidents. When you design structures so that drivers are inclined to drive more safely, you see reduced incidents. So you can absolutely see that these things are working.
And I've always wondered if the data is clear and the lives saved can in fact be measured and you can actually get these kind of record results, why we still have to have these neighborhood by neighborhood fights where, some local merchant group will say, we love our parking meters, don't put in a bike lane or whatever it might be.
Listen, there's a lot of competition for use in the public realm, right? There's a lot of different people who want a lot of different things out of a naturally constrained space. And so people have a lot of opinions about what their neighborhood should look and feel like. We definitely have to try and honor those opinions while also making our streets safer for everyone. So it's a challenge, but it's one like I'm excited to dive into.
You're going to be the queen of the curb, right? You got transportation and you got sanitation, right? Is the containerization process, is that something that was unique to the last administration, or is this going to be ongoing?
I think it's an important thing to make sure that our neighborhoods are livable and not full of garbage and that we make our garbage collection efficient. And I'm hoping to learn more about how that program was rolled out and think about our options moving forward.
Yeah, I've always often wondered, and as the person who takes out the trash in my house, I like it. I see what it's done.
Yeah.
Visibly fewer rats in the neighborhood in general, and it all sounds good. I've always wondered what the cost is, what the dollar cost is.
There's certainly costs to take into account, also operational considerations and how you roll out a program like that and do it in a responsible and sensible way. But we've got to look into how this has been going and make sure that we're being responsible.
The mayor has talked about efficiency and excellence in government. I learned yesterday, in fact, I learned this from the controller. He mentioned it when I was talking to him yesterday, that the city currently hires expediters to get to its own projects essentially through its own bureaucracy. Now, the buildings department, which will be in your portfolio, I think is one of the places that's known for that. Is that going to get some priority to sort of maybe clean up some of that?
Yeah, so the buildings department actually is not in my portfolio.
Okay.
It is one of the things that's slightly different from when I was there last. You are right about the expediters, and I have always personally felt that was a little silly, but we will have to look at, I'm sure Layla and her team will look at all of these issues and figure out the best path forward.
And so when the mayor says he wants to make all of these things happen, is it your feeling that you've got, like, you know, the clock is ticking and you've got 48 months to get this done?
Absolutely. I think we are trying to get as much done as quickly as possible, and it was a clear charge to accomplish key things in the mayor's agenda as quickly as possible. And I'll tell you, just in the last few days, this is a team that really knows how to work.
Okay.
We are working.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, where are you working? Are you in the bullpen inside City Hall?
I have an office in City Hall, yes.
And that'll be where, you know, where the stuff happens as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, you know, I also plan to spend a fair amount of time in the field. You really do have to understand how things are working to make sure they're working well.
The civil servants in New York, I mean, I occasionally get to go to and host and maybe MC some awards ceremonies that are done by different groups, the unions or, you know, local newspapers and things like that. They really are extraordinary. I don't think they get enough credit.
1,000%.
But what we've seen in the last few years, and I think it started at the end of the de Blasio administration, is that there are real problems with recruiting, onboarding, and retaining a good civil service. Is any of that going to be in your portfolio to try and make it go a little bit quicker?
Yes, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services will be in my portfolio. That is absolutely something that is important to me. We cannot deliver the services that New Yorkers need without a fully staffed set of agencies. So we need to make sure that we are staffed to provide for the needs of New Yorkers.
DCAS in particular, because they administer the civil service test.
Right, yes.
I mean, that's kind of where a lot of the rules are circumscribed. Like you're not able to just sort of say, hey, we're going to have a 90-day hiring period. If there's a legally required civil service list, your hands are tied to a certain extent, right?
That's right, and we'll have to look at what our options are for reforming that, right? Some things might be process, some things might be procedure, some things might be law, and so we'll have to dig in a little bit about where we can make improvements quicker, what kinds of improvements might take more time, but the facts of the matter are that we need a flexible and staffed workforce in order to deliver for New Yorkers.
Okay. And are you open to ideas? Because I have a lot of viewers who have a lot of ideas, you know.
I want all the ideas.
Send all of the ideas to Julia Curson. The deputy mayor wants to hear your ideas for making the city more efficient.
Yes.
Well, we're going to wish you the best of luck, and I hope to stay in touch with you.
Absolutely.
It is an exciting time as you get a new start.
Absolutely.
Thanks a whole lot.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a short break now. When we come back, the MTA's latest fare hikes take effect on Sunday. We'll bring you those details in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Not only is the MTA phasing out the Metro card in favor of the Omni Tap and Go system, the latest fare hikes will be taking effect on Sunday. New York One reporter Nia Clark has the details on all of that.
Everything is going up, and I think the MTA has to do what it has to do to maintain the system.
MTA customers will see across-the-board fare increases starting Sunday. Base fare for subways, local buses, and Access-a-Ride will increase 10 cents from $2.90 to $3. Reduced fare will increase from $1.45 to $1.50. Express bus fare will increase from $7 to $7.25. Reduced express fare will increase from $3.50 to $3.60. Also, single ride ticket prices will jump 25 cents from $3.25 to $3.50. MTA Chair and CEO Jano Lieber calls the fare increases approved by the MTA board back in September modest, saying they're meant to keep pace with inflation while avoiding steeper hikes. We asked strap hangers in Union Square what they think. Riders like Gerald Johnson agree.
The MTA is the best deal in New York. You can go everywhere as many times as you want and not pay a new fare if you know how the system works.
It's very fair. You know, the most important thing is that you all are there all the time, and we get to where we are safely.
We did speak to a few riders who do not believe the fare hikes are fair.
I'm a tourist, so yeah, I'm already surprised with the prices.
Others take issue with the rollout of the fare increases.
They told us about the Metro cards going out by the 31st, right? But you couldn't tell us that the fare was going to be raised. Very little coverage on that. Not cute, not fair.
Additionally, the fee for new Omni cards will increase to $2 once Metro cards are no longer accepted. Reduced fare customers will pay no more than $17.50 in a week, and Express bus riders will never pay more than $67 for unlimited express bus, local bus, and subway rides in any 7-day period.
The MTA also says fares for seniors, people with disabilities, students, and those who use the Paratransit Zero Fare program will not increase. However, tolls on MTA-controlled bridges and tunnels will increase by 7.5% for Easy Pass users and tolls by mail. Reporting from Union Square in Manhattan, Nia Clark, New York One.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, we'll turn back to Mayor Mamdani's second day in office when I'm joined by 3 top journalists in our Friday Reporters Roundtable. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Perkins.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. right here on The Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Who have chosen historic, ambitious leadership in response to untenable and unprecedented times.
You deserve to accept love, and you deserve to be protected. And I'm honored to be here to help create a city that's worthy of that for you.
Our city today is booming for people at the top, but it's getting tougher and tougher for working families.
Well, believe it or not, the President of the United States is now talking about affordability.
So there will be a huge focus in the administration on protecting tenants and managing housing quality.
It means something to me to have said that I've been here for the inauguration of the first Indian mayor of New York City and the socialist mayor of New York City.
Zohran insisted to go and speak out on my behalf.
But in Albany, I actually think he's better positioned to achieve his agenda than where I was at the same moment 12 years ago today.
Demanding that the wealthy and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes is not radical. It is exactly the right thing to do.
We have some profound systemic changes that we need to make in this country on housing, on public transportation, on food insecurity.
I promise you this. If you are a New Yorker, I am your mayor. I was elected as a Democratic Socialist, and I will govern as a Democratic Socialist.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was a look back at some of the highlights of yesterday's inauguration ceremony for Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Joining me now to talk about Mamdani's first 48 hours in office are 3 top journalists in our Friday Reporters Roundtable. Katie Honan is a reporter for the nonprofit newsroom, The City, and co-host of the excellent FAQ NYC podcast. Sally Goldenberg is the senior politics editor at Politico, at least through the end of today. She starts on Monday at the New York Times. And Jeff Colton is the editor-in-chief of City and State New York. Thank you all for being here. Great to see you. Where were you guys during the ceremony? I was freezing up on that the platform where they put the television press. Where were you?
I was underneath that platform, and actually at times the wind would blow the old snow off of the top, and I literally got snowed on despite it being a clear and sunny day.
Were you standing near that confetti cannon?
Yeah,
it's shocked
distant
me. It was
from
right
that.
behind us.
Thankfully.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. How about you?
Not to rub it in, I was watching from the press room at City Hall. I was watching your coverage on a delay, so we'd hear cheering outside, and then I'd figure out what it was for. But I was close enough. Yeah. I went out earlier, I went out after, and then I got to grab the people coming back into City Hall, which was good.
Very interesting. And how about you?
I was home. I haven't started yet. I watched it, obviously. I watched
not
it on
on
TV,
the clock
but
just yet.
I
Not
was
on
warm.
the clock.
I was on my old clock. So.
Got you. Well, what stories were you looking for?
You know, I'm interested in his role nationally. You know, I mean, obviously, like, interested in how he governs as mayor, but just given that Bernie Sanders was there and that AOC was there, and, you know, Bernie is probably retiring at some point, and I think he is looking for people to kind of take the mantle for the progressive movement nationally. AOC is the heir apparent for that, but I think he has really embraced Zohran Mamdani as somebody who can be like a vocal leader nationally. You know, the mayor has a huge bully pulpit, and I think, you know, Bernie Sanders recognizes that. So I was kind of curious about the national overlay of it all.
How about you, Jeff?
The unifying message, which I think was expected, but I was eager to see. You know, he had a pretty defiant message on election night, and that got some attention. You know, Donald Trump, turn up the volume, that kind of thing. That wasn't the message yesterday at the inauguration. The message was very much, all New Yorkers, I am your mayor, as we heard him say, except the billionaires and the oligarchs. That was the, you know, he was still standing up and saying, we are, you know, going to not give them a free ride, basically.
Would you agree that it was inclusive, but it wasn't persuasive? I mean, it felt like a campaign rally, except at a campaign rally, you're trying to encourage people to come on board. Not so much of that from the mayor yesterday.
That's interesting. I mean, you know, I guess if you're in Mott Haven and you didn't like Mamdani, maybe you were tickled that he mentioned your neighborhood. If you know, are working if you're serving pastrami sandwiches, maybe you were tickled that he mentioned that job too. So I think there was some persuasion. I mean, his job was just to, you know, to reach out to all New Yorkers, and it seems to me that he did that. And I think a lot of people, of course, have a lot of issues with him, but I don't think there were many criticisms of the speech. It was just of Mamdani and the past everything.
Right. Well, there are people who certainly want to rehash it, right? And it's like, you know what? He's young. He's not going to suddenly turn old. He's Muslim. He's not abandoning his faith, and he's clearly going to govern as a member of the DSA, which is what he told us yesterday.
Yeah, and it wasn't controversial. You know, I think he really tried to make people proud to be a New Yorker. I think he showed his New York past, and he's a native New Yorker. He's been here since he was a kid, and he really showed a lot of that in his speech, which I think was both humorous and funny, but and fun, but at the same time represented the severity of him taking this role of the largest city in the country. But look, I mean, everyone in that crowd was a Mamdani supporter. I think the real work obviously begins like right about now, and how he will actually do what he needs to do. And look, I think him going right after the inauguration to a apartment building in Brooklyn where there's a rent strike, I think it shows that he's practicing what he literally had just been preaching hours earlier.
No, very true. There was one part of it, of course, the handoff from Eric Adams to Zohran Mamdani, of course, is something we've all been following. There was something that happened at the inauguration that I thought was worth commenting on. Let's take a look at that.
Thank you as well to Mayor Adams. Dorothy's son, a son of Brownsville who rose from washing dishes to the highest position in our city, for being here as well. He and I have had our share of disagreements, but I will always be touched that he chose me as the mayoral candidate that he would most want to be trapped with on an elevator.
It's very nice, somewhat pleasant, I guess kind of made up for the booze, although a couple of hours later he went and, you know, canceled all of his executive orders.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think Mamdani, you see he does this sort of thing. Like, if you remember when de Blasio became mayor, he kind of kept that campaign, that fight going. Like, his inauguration eviscerated Mike Bloomberg, who was sitting in the front row. I don't know if he did, but his speakers did, and I assume he saw the speeches. And he kind of governed that way, a lot of class warfare talk. And Mamdani, you know, during the campaign, he would go to these business consortiums. I think he would say his point of view, but he always tries to, like, make friends. You know, he just has a much more kind of, I don't know, solicitous personality than de Blasio did. And I've like thought about that comparison in my head because they're kind of saying the same thing policy-wise, more or less. But you're right. He went and like rescinded all of his executive orders and actually said something like, we're doing it from September 26, 2024, like reminding everyone that Eric Adams was federally indicted.
No.
So not really best friends.
Very
but,
good point. I saw you had a little scooplet that the mayor, you discovered, is on his way to Dubai as we speak.
That's right. I got sent a picture, and Eric Adams was on an Emirates flight to Dubai last night around 11 p.m. from JFK. He, frankly, I actually don't know if he's staying in Dubai or whether he was flying out from there. But he's been clear that he plans to spend a lot of time traveling, and he said that he plans to drink single malt scotch. And I was tickled that in the photo there's a little glass of brown liquor next to him, and I'm sure that's the single malt scotch that he's been talking about.
Okay, I guess with more on the flight as well. So we actually do have an effort by the departing mayor to sort of, maybe not, hobble is probably too strong of a word, but to sort of throw some roadblocks in the way of Mayor Mamdani, right?
Yeah, he did it with the Rent Guidelines Board. He did it even with some of these council bills, vetoing them at the last minute without a chance for them to override the veto. And as his now former deputy mayor for desk, as I always call him, just get one last in, he said, well, he's mayor till 11:59, you know? So look, I think the current mayor Mamdani's, what he said about Eric Adams was really gracious, and it was a little funny, which again goes to his way of speaking, but he was the mayor for 4 years. He was duly elected 4 years ago. He had a troubling turn. This administration was a little bit troubling and it was scandal-ridden, but he meant something to a lot of people in the city, at least at a time and for a time. So I think it was nice of him to recognize that.
Okay, let's take a short break. I've got more to talk about with these reporters. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
I cannot blame anyone who has come to question the role of government, whose faith in democracy has been eroded by decades of apathy. We will restore that trust by walking a different path, one where government is no longer solely the final recourse for those struggling, one where excellence is no longer the exception. We expect greatness from the cooks wielding 1,000 spices, from those who stride out onto our Broadway stages, and from our starting point guard at Madison Square Garden. Let us demand the same from those who work in government.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my Reporters Roundtable, Katie Honan from the nonprofit newsroom The City, Sally Goldenberg of Politico and The New York Times, and Jeff Colton from City and State New York. A very interesting point that he's made on the campaign trail about looking for excellence. I guess in that spirit, what would you advise his press office to do compared with the departing one, which I think was anything but excellent by most people's estimation?
I think being on the offense a little bit, and by that I mean recognize, like, read what we write, get to know people, and there's a lot of people, right? Get to know us and see what we actually might be interested in, because I know dealing with the 4 years of the Adams people, it was constant defense, and maybe that's the problem, the fault of the principal that they had to work with, but it was just so combative, and, you know I played a role, but whatever, what are you gonna do? But be aware of who we are and what actually might interest us, and make him available and that kind of thing. I think it got, with Eric Adams, it got immediately bad by January of 2022, because as soon as there was a negative story, he just lashed out at us, and it just got worse and worse, in part because of the people who he hired, who really didn't know how to actually share what their boss was doing that was positive in a way that we could actually work with.
I agree with all that, and then also just to focus on transparency. I mean, that should be the core of what they do. Their job is to open up government, work with journalists who also want to provide transparency. And it's not the crime, it's the cover-up, Right. And so often with the Adams administration, it made things feel more scandalous because they were hiding, they were obfuscating, they were covering up. I would like to see much more sunlight from the Mamdani administration and on the Mamdani administration.
I agree with all of that. And I would say this has nothing to do with me, but I think because the Post is going to go so hard after Mamdani, he needs a plan for how to deal with the New York Post. I mean, they really eviscerated Bill de Blasio for 8 years and shaped a narrative that kind of followed him around the country on his, presidential whims and so forth. They do, they drive a narrative, they drive coverage, and I think the Mamdani press team needs to kind of figure out how to deal with the Post. It's not easy, and you can't win them over, but there are ways to work with them, and they should figure that out because they're going to be ruthless. They've been handcuffed basically for 4 years. They decided to not go after Eric Adams for the most part.
Oh, they've already started on the price of real estate is shooting up in Florida because people are fleeing.
And the biggest mistake they could make is say, "Oh, the Post doesn't matter." That's just not true. And they need to figure out how to deal with it.
No, it's very true. You go to Miami, and the New York Post is sitting on the newsstands, right? I mean, it is a national newspaper in a lot of ways. So I imagine the mayor is going to continue doing some of what we saw yesterday, meaning go right to the picket line, side with the tenants, sort of try and play to his base in that way. But he's also got to sort of do the basic management stuff, the blocking and tackling that I was talking about with his deputy, incoming operations chief. And there's going to be a lot of that. How are you all sort of conceiving of which storylines you're going to be looking at in these first 6 months?
Certainly, we're going to be focusing on Albany and how he works with the state legislature. And a big question is just who is going to be physically going to Albany and then also making those phone calls, working with the governor, working with the state legislature, again, because for all of his core big promises, like free buses, you need the MTA. For the taxing the rich, you need the state legislature. For the universal child care, again, it all comes down to that. So, of course, we're very curious who's going to be working with Albany and who's going to be on his intergovernmental affairs team, which we only know, I think, just one person, just the leader so far, and it's going to be a bigger team.
Okay.
I think we always are trying to explain to the general public what's going on. Today's a good example. He announced the Office of Mass Engagement. Jeff made a good church joke earlier about that. Figuring out what that actually is, and even though that's something that is supposed to be very outward-facing and is something that people, New Yorkers who support him or don't, who might want to take part in, I still was confused as to how it will actually operate. He explained to me that it will be an opportunity to make City Hall work for everyone, So, but what does that mean, and how does that actually look in practice, right? If you want to make people happy in the city, that's impossible. Not everyone agrees on things. How do you do it? So I think trying to debunk a lot of these new offices and even these appointments, even some of what the deputy mayors are doing, just for our readers of what actually is this, who is this person, what are they doing, and how will that actually benefit or even hurt you, depending on who's listening or reading.
Okay, good. What are you looking at?
I'm really interested in his relationship with his political base because he has, kind of a litmus test, purity test type of base. And that's not, governing as an executive requires compromise and it requires shifting. And I think there's going to be just ample examples of that. There already are. We've seen it in the Congressional. He's playing in the Congressional races already, which I think is really interesting, like backing Hakeem Jeffries, getting a DSA candidate out, firing this, the woman who was going to direct appointments for her prior tweets. And I think there's going to be some dissent within his base, and that could include people in City Hall who are kind of come from that political background who are working for him. So I'm really interested in how he navigates that, because he said it in the inauguration, I am going to govern as a democratic socialist. He's very proud of that, but that is a base of people who care deeply that you are really on point on all the issues they care about.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. We will see if they can hold him accountable, right? I mean, this is the thing, it's true for Republicans, it's true for Democrats, it's certainly true for DSA candidates, which is that you know, you're the office holder, you're what's happening, you know, and they can try and guilt trip you. They can threaten to withhold their support. They can write nasty things about you in their newsletter. But in the end, there's like, what, 13,000, 15,000 members of the DSA? And this is the mayor of a city of 8+ million.
Yeah, no, he has the power, but they can make life hard.
We shall see. We shall see. Speaking of those congressional races, which ones are you paying attention to? We've got a couple of vacancies where you got retiring members.
I mean, the Goldman-Lander race is interesting. Like, I think Lander seems to have the edge geographically, is my sense. It seems like Lander does not want to run a race based kind of entirely around Israeli politics. And I think that is kind of the reason for someone else other than Goldman running. So he's doing this, like, Goldman's soft on Trump. But, like, Goldman has a record of not being soft on Trump. So how Lander kind of handles that. And I do think he has the edge, but I still think it's going to be, like, an interesting thing for him to do, to try to, like, he doesn't seem to want to talk about Gaza or not make the race about that. So I think that's a really interesting race to watch.
Yeah. Something similar happening up in the Bronx, actually, right? Where
Torres
Michael
and
Blake, you know,
yeah.
just pretty much put it out there that the stances of the incumbent on Israel are a big part of why he's running.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is an issue that's going to continue to come up. I even saw a candidate for Jerry Nadler's seat went to Gaza over this most recent Christmas break, you know, traveled there. It will continue to be an issue, even just looking at with Mayor Mamdani, and from the first day has issues with some of the executive orders he repealed, and some Jewish New Yorkers were upset by the things that Eric Adams had put in place. So it's going to continue to be an issue, but these congressional races, again, it goes to what Sally was saying, the DSA involvement, and this is now the political party of the mayor of the city of New York. These are the base of his supporters. What he gets involved with, what races he gets involved with. I've even heard some chattering with the assembly seat, his assembly seat, who he endorsed over who he didn't endorse. It's going to be a constant litmus test from his biggest supporters.
And very much so in the race to replace Nydia Velázquez, too, retiring. I mean, we're looking at Antonio Reynoso, total, you know, dyed-in-the-wool progressive Democrat, friends with Brad Lander. And then against what will likely be a Democratic Socialist, probably Assembly member Claire Valdez, DSA versus progressives.
Mamdani's supporting.
It's going to probably tear apart the left. Yeah, I mean, Mamdani is going to be, you know, like on the different side of an issue with maybe the WFP or, you know, other members of that larger progressive Democratic umbrella. And that's going to be very interesting.
Very, very interesting. Well, look, we'll be reading all of your stuff as we get further into the campaign season. Great talking with you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Harold.
We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, members of Congress face a packed agenda when they return to Washington. That's happening next week, including a looming possible shutdown and a fight over health care subsidies. We'll bring you a full report in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it's saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Congress is preparing to return to Washington, D.C. next week with expiring health care subsidies front and center on the agenda, as well as another impending government shutdown on the horizon. Spectrum News Washington reporter Reuben Jones has the details in tonight's final story.
We're demanding a vote today on extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Today, not tomorrow.
That call for action to extend the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies in December fell flat. House Republican leadership pushed the vote to after the holidays and after the subsidies expired. Democrats and a few Republican House members signed a discharge petition to force a vote on a 3-year extension. That will likely happen this coming week, as members of the House will be forced to vote on the issue that's divided Congress for months.
Doing nothing is the worst outcome.
As of now, with no agreement on subsidies, millions of people are set to see a double-digit increase on their monthly insurance premiums. It's why Democrats forced a government shutdown this fall, demanding Republicans take a vote. And while the 43-day shutdown may have ended in November, another one could be just weeks away. Congress has until January 30th to fund the government, giving them little time to pass numerous appropriations bills, not yet approved. This comes amid a shrinking House Republican majority that narrows this coming week, as Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene resigns her position.
I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest, as I always have.
She joins more than 50 members of Congress who have announced they won't seek re-election next fall. Republicans face headwinds in November as they aim to keep control of the House. Democrats look to do the difficult task of taking back control of the Senate. Now, the issues likely to take center stage in the campaign season include affordability and health care. In Washington, Reuben Jones, Spectrum News.
That's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything.
Hey, brother. Be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No.
Series.
There's another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere. At home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for. Streaming apps included at no extra cost.
Just got that, pal. Get a good look.
With live TV and on demand. All together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news